Beneath the moss-draped oaks of Savannah, a weary soldier risked his final $100 on a deed others shunned in fear. The mansion was deemed cursed, a haunt of vanished families and echoing footsteps. Yet when he pushed open its door, no void greeted him from the gloom. Two golden eyes gleamed back a bobcat, bold and unyielding, as if it safeguarded a secret hidden for a century. From that instant, his wager ceased to be about mere property. It became a quest for a legacy that would reshape his very soul. Before we dive in, share where you're joining us from. And if this tale resonates with you, please subscribe for more. Savannah's winter air hung thick with damp, blending the salt of the nearby river with the earthy scent of ancient brick buildings worn by time. The streets glistened faintly from a recent shower, neon glows from corner diners stretching across wet pavement. This was a city of spirits and splendor, where history clung to every Spanish moss-covered oak. Here, Amos Holt arrived, a man not chasing fame, but seeking a place to find peace. Amos Holt was 47, his frame leaner than in his youth, yet still carved by years of military service. He bore scars from Afghanistan, some seen, others buried deep. His dark hair was streaked with silver, his jawline taut but etched with weariness, his gray eyes holding the distant gaze of a soldier who never fully returns. He lived alone in a cramped apartment on the edge of Savannah's industrial zone, where the walls reeked faintly of mold. The radiator hissed without warmth, and the ceiling bore water stains like maps of lands he'd never see. Clara Mayfield, his ex-wife, had once brought light to his life with her auburn hair and radiant smile. But 3 years prior, she left, her final words cutting deep. "I can't live without a real home." Amos hadn't stopped her. To him, a man unable to provide shelter wasn't worthy of anchoring another's future. That truth haunted him in the quiet nights. His sole companion now was memory comrades lost in war and a worn army knife he carried like a relic. The blade's weight, not its edge, grounded him, a tether to the man he once was. He'd grip it in the stillness, as if clutching the shadow of his former self. That night, Amos hunched over a second-hand laptop at a rickety folding table, the screen's glow illuminating his tired face as he scrolled through the internet's forgotten corners. Job boards offered only rejections, news articles passed without meaning, their endless noise deepening his solitude. Then a headline snagged his attention: "Historic Savannah Property Auction. Own a piece of the past." Curiosity sparked, faint at first, then piercing. He clicked. Images of grand homes filled the screen-sweeping porches, ornate staircases, verandas propped by towering columns. Some were regal, others decayed. Most were far beyond his reach, even in fantasy. But one image halted him, a grainy, shadowed thumbnail, almost hiding from view. Amos enlarged it. A mansion, its paint flaked to gray, windows rotting, vines strangling its facade like desperate hands. The description was curt, almost indifferent. Harrow House, built 1901, structurally unsound. Sold as is. Starting bid $100. He leaned back, the chair creaking. $100. It was laughable. He'd spent more on groceries in a lean month. No property in Savannah, not even a shack, could cost so little. There had to be a catch: crumbling foundations, perhaps, or the rumored hauntings. Yet, even as his soldier's mind tallied the risks, a quieter voice stirred. What if this was his shot? He pictured space-clean air free of exhaust, moss swaying instead of smoke, silence born of peace, not loneliness. He imagined a home Clara might have cherished, though that hope was long gone. More than that, he saw belonging. For a long moment, he stared at the screen, his pulse settling into the steady rhythm of combat's calm before action. Clara's words echoed, "You'll never give us a home." His jaw clenched. Maybe it was too late for her, but not for him. The cursor lingered over the bid button. He spoke softly, as if to someone absent. "What do you say, old friend?" His fingers grazed the knife beside his laptop, and in his mind he heard the faint encouragement of fallen comrades. He clicked. The bid locked in, his chest tightened. Minutes crawled like hours as he watched the numbers climb, stall, then halt. The screen flashed. "Congratulations, you are the winning bidder." Amos exhaled, leaning back, eyes fixed on the words. It was done. He'd bought a mansion, if it could still be called that, for $100. The next morning, he signed the papers. The clerk, Walter Finch, was an older man in a worn suit that smelled faintly of tobacco. His thinning hair combed carefully, his voice flat from routine. "You understand," Walter said, sliding the deed across the desk. "All sales are final. The house is yours. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a reason it went so cheap." His eyes, behind thick glasses, held pity and curiosity. "What reason?" Amos asked. Walter shrugged, his shoulders heavy. "Some say it's cursed. Families move in, they don't stay. Others say it holds too many memories. Either way, no one wants it. Until now." Amos signed without pause, his signature a vow scratched on paper. "Then I'll take it," he said simply. Walter studied him. "You're a soldier, aren't you?" Amos nodded. "Maybe you've got what it takes," Walter muttered. "God knows no one else has lasted there." Stepping out of the office, Amos faced a sky turned gray, clouds heavy with rain. The oaks along the street swayed, their moss trailing like secrets. He tucked the deed into his jacket, its weight pressing against his chest. He knew a $100 mansion wasn't a steal, it was a challenge. But for the first time in years, something stirred in him, not bitterness or fatigue, but possibility. He glanced toward the horizon, where the mansion waited, cloaked in its own quiet. He didn't believe in curses, only scars and unhealed wounds. Perhaps this house, like him, was just broken walls striving to stand again. "All right," Amos said softly, almost to the city itself. "Let's see what you've got for me." With only his knife, his memories, and a deed worth less than a month's rent, Amos Holt set out to face the house that had chosen him as much as he had chosen it. The road to Savannah was narrow, winding through oaks draped in Spanish moss, swaying like spectral curtains in the winter breeze. Amos drove his battered pickup slowly, its engine sputtering up gentle hills. His hands gripped the wheel, gray eyes scanning each turn with a vigilance honed by years of expecting danger from unseen places. The city unfolded like a weathered canvas brick sidewalks gleaming from last night's rain, bordered by rusted iron fences and cracked lampposts. Old houses with peeling shutters leaned together, the air thick with river water scent. To outsiders it was picturesque, timeless. But Amos sensed something deeper, a quiet suspicion, a silence that measured rather than welcomed. At a small, faded gas station, that silence met him directly. The building, once white, was now gray, a tin sign clinking in the wind. A man, Earl Tate, shuffled out. In his late 60s, Earl was wiry, his face sun-browned and lined, his hands stained with oil from years under car hoods. His frayed cap shaded pale blue eyes, weary from decades in the same town. "Just passing through?" Earl asked, wiping his hands on a rag as Amos filled the truck. "Moving in," Amos replied. Earl's head tilted, his gaze sharpening. "Not that place on Ashford Road, is it?" Amos nodded. "Harrow House." Earl whistled low, shaking his head. "Then you'd best brace yourself. That house doesn't keep men, not for long." He offered no more, just scrubbed the same spot on his rag until his knuckles whitened. Amos didn't push. He'd heard that tone before in far-off villages where locals knew more than they'd say. He paid, nodded politely, and drove on. In Savannah's heart, the townsfolk's eyes tracked him. Women in heavy coats paused outside a store, their murmurs carrying fragments. "That's him. The soldier bought it." A man on a bicycle slowed, glanced at the truck, then pedaled off quickly, as if avoiding his shadow. Even children hushed as he passed. It wasn't hostility, it was colder, a mix of pity and curiosity, as if they watched a man already doomed but too stubborn to see it. The road to Harrow House narrowed, pavement cracking, weeds swallowing the edges. Trees closed in, their bare branches clawing the sky. Then the mansion appeared, looming at the end of a gravel path, 3 stories of grayed wood, windows boarded unevenly, vines curling like fingers around rotting pillars. The porch sagged, the chimney leaned, exhausted. Amos parked, staring in silence at what was now his mansion worth fortunes elsewhere, here sold for $100. Now he saw why. The air smelled of mildew and old leaves. He stepped out, boots crunching gravel, and approached the porch, its boards groaning underfoot. He drew a breath, slid the key into the lock. The door resisted, then creaked open, long and aching. Inside, the air was thick, stale with decades of dust. Weak light pierced cracks in boarded windows, illuminating drifting motes like ash. The hall was wide, its staircase climbing into darkness, a cobwebbed chandelier dangling above, its crystals dim. Amos stepped cautiously, boots thudding on warped boards. His soldier's instincts sharpened, each creak too deliberate, each shadow too dense. He set his duffel bag by the door, hand brushing the knife at his belt. Then he froze. From above came 2 measured steps on the landing, then silence. His jaw tightened. He grabbed his flashlight, its beam cutting through dust to the staircase. There, 2 golden eyes glowed from the shadows wide, unblinking. A bobcat, lean and underfed, its fur patchy, ribs faintly visible, stepped forward, paws silent, its ears pricked, body tense but not retreating. Amos held his ground, breath slowing, muscles taut from countless standoffs. But this was no foe. The bobcat didn't snarl or flee, it watched, unafraid, as if judging him against others who'd come and gone. "Guess you live here," Amos muttered, voice low, flashlight steady, hand near his knife. "Maybe we're both squatters." The bobcat tilted its head as if it understood, then sat back, tail flicking, eyes locked on his. Amos felt a stir not of species, but of spirit, like the gaze of desert strays or soldiers who'd lost all but their will to endure. Survival stared back at him. He lowered the flashlight. The bobcat blinked slowly, padded up the landing, and vanished into the dark. Amos stood still, the silence heavy, broken only by wind through broken panes. He exhaled, tension easing. Whatever this house held, he wasn't alone. The next morning, Savannah's air clung damp and cold. Amos woke stiff on the hall's warped floor, his duffel under his head, coat pulled tight. His eyes flicked to the staircase where the bobcat had appeared. Had he imagined those eyes? Then movement in the parlor doorway. A lean shape stepped into light filtering through broken shutters. The bobcat, sharp and hungry, padded across the floor, owning every board. Amos studied it, then murmured, "Dusk." The name came unbidden, but fit. The creature paused, tail flicking, blinking as if accepting the name. Amos rose, joints aching. "Guess we're stuck together." Dusk stared, then leaped onto a windowsill, curling into a tight coil of muscle and fur. The day's task was clear: explore. He'd survived war zones. A broken house couldn't scare him more than gunfire had. Still, he carried his flashlight and knife. Rooms lay bare, wallpaper peeling, a fireplace choked with soot, its mantel scarred. The kitchen reeked of rust and mildew, an iron stove like a forgotten guard. There, Dusk stiffened, freezing by a warped door, ears forward, tail rigid. Amos followed its gaze to a stairwell descending, air cool and earthy. "The basement," he muttered, flashlight clicking on. The stairs groaned as he descended, Dusk following with a faint growl. The basement was a stone and timber cave, walls slick, cobwebs thick. The flashlight swept over broken crates, rusted nails, dust-choked jars. Dusk darted to a corner behind a fallen shelf, nose pressed low. Amos crouched, light catching a wooden trunk, iron-banded, scarred, dust muting its color. He brushed the lid, stirring a faint cloud. "Been here a long time," he whispered. The latch resisted, then snapped. Hinges groaned, releasing a stale scent of paper and decay. Inside were yellowed documents, fragile and clouded photographs. Amos wiped one clean of family before Harrow House in its prime. The man in the center, stern in a dark suit, stood beside a woman in a long dress. Behind them, servants, plainly dressed. Amos's eyes caught a tall man in the back, broad-shouldered, with pale, silver eyes, his own eyes, mirrored daily. Recognition burned beyond reason. His grip tightened. Another bundle held a leather-bound notebook, its cover bearing Lydia Crane. The name struck him, his grandmother's tales of her grandmother, a servant in a southern grand house, suddenly real. Pages listed wages, names, work, but in the margins, sharp words. "He does not see us." The land remembers more than the master does. One day, blood will return. Amos's pulse raced. This wasn't chance. The house was a thread pulling him through generations. Dusk growled, eyes fixed on a crumbling seam in the stone wall. Amos's light caught a glint in envelope, brittle, wax-sealed, inscribed to the one who carries the blood. His hand trembled as he broke the seal. The ink was faint but clear. "If you have found me, you are kin. Our truth is buried deeper than their lies. They never found the room. You must. The house remembers. It will guide you. Lydia Crane." The letter's weight surpassed any weapon he'd carried. He sat back, staring, his grandmother's voice echoing. There was a woman named Lydia. She never left the house she served. This mansion wasn't just wood and stone. It was a ledger of pain and survival, his name written in its margins long ago. Amos replaced the papers, keeping the letter. Dusk pressed close, ears alert, as if waiting. "This wasn't chance," Amos said quietly. "We were called." The words rang true. He'd come for shelter, but found bloodlines, whispers, and a warning that the house's story wasn't done. The afternoon sun pierced weak clouds, casting pale light over Harrow House's grounds. Savannah's winter air hung heavy, silence pressing like a weight. Amos stood on the back porch, collar up, tasting damp iron. Dusk paced near the overgrown yard, eyes fixed on something unseen. Where now? Amos muttered, following as dusk moved toward a sprawling oak, its moss-draped limbs like weary arms. The earth beneath bulged, tangled with roots and weeds. Amos knelt where dusk pawed, brushing moss to reveal shallow letters. Lydia Crane, 1869 to 1921. His throat tightened, breath heavy. He traced the engraving, his grandmother's stories of Lydia now etched in stone. This was no accident, a homecoming written before his birth. Dusk crouched, ears forward, as if sensing the weight of the find. Amos cleared more brush, uncovering other markers, their inscriptions faded. Ruth, beloved friend. J.D., age 6. Small, weather-worn, they marked not the wealthy owners, but those who served, forgotten by history. A discovery gnawed at him. He wiped stone after stone, restoring what dignity he could. Dusk watched, eyes shifting between Amos and the looming house, as if listening. As twilight fell, Amos straightened, hands raw, knees muddy. The mansion's windows gaped dark, vines shifting like living things. Inside, his boots trailed earth across the hall. He lit a lantern, its flame dancing across the chandelier. Night deepened. Amos lay on his bedroll, dusk curled near. Silence felt almost peaceful until 3 deliberate knocks echoed from the east wing, measured, insistent. Amos stiffened, grabbing the flashlight. Dusk's eyes glowed, ears pricked, but it didn't growl or flee, only stared toward the sound. 3 knocks came again, then silence. "Who's there?" Amos called, voice steady. The house groaned in reply. Dusk stepped forward, then looked back, urging him on. Amos hesitated. Something said it wasn't time. He returned to his spot, listening as the house seemed to breathe. Lydia's letter echoed. "The house remembers. It will guide you." Sleep brought fitful dreams, blurred faces, hands from the earth, 3 knocks like a summons. By dawn, resolve hardened. The graveyard, trunk, letter, and knocks wove a tapestry he was only beginning to unravel. The house wasn't cursed. It was alive with memory, calling him deeper. The next morning, Amos walked the east wing, lantern in hand, dusk trailing silently. The study's warped doors opened to broken shelves and a rotting desk. Cracked paneling lined the walls, a window nailed shut. Tapping the wall, he heard a hollow sound. His knife pried loose boards, revealing a small oak door etched with "Lydia Crane. I found you," he whispered. The door yielded, dust spilling like ash. The hidden room, small but sacred, held a cobwebbed desk with a journal, letters, and sharp photographs. Shelves bore herbs, tools, candle stubs. A trunk sat unlatched. Unlike the mansion, this room bore no decay, preserved as if waiting. Amos lifted the journal, Lydia's tight script clear. "If my blood returns, let them know. This house holds our pain, but also our strength. Do not let them bury us again. Build something worthy." The words seared him. He sat, journal trembling, dusk budding his knee. "Not a curse," Amos said. "A legacy." Rain began, tapping the roof. Amos spread the journal and photographs in the hall, faces staring back, men, women, children. Their stories faded to rumor. He cleaned the parlor, scrubbed the hearth, nailed boards straight, and placed Lydia's photograph on the mantel, her flint-sharp eyes commanding. He tended the graveyard, resetting stones, planting wildflowers. Word spread in Savannah. The man who bought Harrow House for $100 was restoring its memory. Curious visitors came, then braver ones. Eleanor Shaw, 70s, with white curls and kind eyes, saw a photograph and wept. "That's my great-aunt Rose. She worked here. Thank you for letting her stand again." Sheriff James Carver, tall and bronze-skinned, visited, his voice deliberate. Lydia wasn't just a maid, she was a force, keeping records, refusing silence. "You're bringing back the truth they buried." Lila Benton, a young historian with ties to Lydia's sister, cataloged artifacts, digitizing them. Amos wrote in a new journal, "I came broken. Lydia helped me remember who I was. This house is truth, and I'll keep it alive." Dusk guarded the door, no longer a stray but a sentinel. By winter's depth, the parlor was a memorial, photographs on walls, letters in salvaged cases. The graveyard bloomed, and visitors left flowers and tears. Amos understood why the house sold cheap, not rot, but the weight of history no one dared carry. For him it was a calling. One evening, by Lydia's portrait, he whispered, "They won't forget you. Not while I'm here." Peace settled in him at last. Amos's journey reminds us that forgotten places and people hold voices waiting to be heard. What seemed cursed was history pleading not to be erased. His choice to stay, listen, and rebuild shows healing begins with remembrance. We all pass silent rooms, untold family stories, unnoticed neighbors, unspoken kindnesses. If we pause to uncover and honor them, we may find strength beyond ourselves. So ask, what truth in your life deserves to be remembered, restored, shared? If this story moved you, share your thoughts below and subscribe for more tales of hope and redemption.